Grab Lives followers and listeners. Thank you for listening today. I am your host, John Vargas. Man, today was a really good day. Just to start off with our disclaimer, everything we say and do does not reflect the City of Los Angeles Fire Department. Gotta say that every single time. I was about to start talking and then I realized I gotta say that. Today was pretty rad. Just had Jason Cash, who is the director of Long Beach Fire Department's behavioral health. He is a firefighter for, I think he said 17 years with Long Beach Fire Department. Just an overall great human being, man. Yeah, he shares his story and talks about everything that brought him to wanting to help other people. He has an agent, I'll call it an agency, like a nonprofit called Halos for Heroes. And I'm going to put everything at the bottom of the description and the narrative for the episode to reach out to Jason, really powerful episode to tune in. I personally live in Long Beach. I grew up in Long Beach. So it was really dear on my heart to just have someone representing Long Beach Fire Department here as a guest. I met Jason 2 years ago at the peer support group conference, and we realized there's something that there's more to this. I think we're figuring it out, and I think it takes great hearts to make this change. And the connection between all of us, I think it's coming around. I feel it. It's palpable. Some great changes. It's happening. I think we're in the midst of figuring it out. So please tune into this episode. Really awesome. Other than that, that's it. All right, everybody. I love you. Take care.
It's time for Grab Lives.
All right, we're recording.
All right.
So, I really wanted to have some type of representation for Long Beach Fire Department. And today I have Jason Cash here, who I've been itching to have for like maybe over a year now, man.
I think so, yeah.
So that main thing is because coming from Long Beach, fully supporting Long Beach all the time and their fire department, and running to Jason 2 years ago now,
I
right?
believe 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I think his movement and he'll talk about everything he offers and so forth. But Halos for Heroes, right, is your is that like a nonprofit or?
So it was a nonprofit. I've been running it for 7 years now, and just recently I took away my nonprofit status. So I never needed to fundraise for any reason. So I don't need that nonprofit status attached to Halos for Heroes.
Okay, cool. And I think I went to one of your guys' meetings, and it was really beneficial just to like sit there and just be with someone. I think that's one of the important factors, is opening up a space, right?
Yes.
It gives an opportunity for expression or
connection.
Yeah, love that, dude.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing I wanted, was a safe place for first responders to be able to get together, have a connection, and share that you're not alone and that everyone's going through something. And if you open up and you let down your guard and you let people in, you're going to find out that you can relate to everybody.
So two of those things is like, one of them is connection.
Yes.
Right. That's part of our sickness, is the lack of connection. And the other thing you said is like letting down your guard.
Yes.
Like that's a means of protecting ourselves from something,
We have very strong personalities in the fire service, and you almost need to keep your guard up because there's so many type A personalities, and it's not it's not who we are to show our weaknesses. And that's been bred through us from everything from training all the way to how we survive. And it's kind of ingrained in us to keep that guard up.
Yeah, so that's kind of one of the things too about having you on today, because I know Long Beach Fire Department is they have a very similar traditional culture like the city of Los Angeles. And just particularly those two are also very political on top of it, which changes the way we operate and the exposure we get from the media and things like that. I think there's some links there with how the culture is so just determined to overtrain, to create these different personas and means of protection, and I don't know how to really understand it fully yet, like all the connections with all that stuff. I don't know. I'm trying not to really still figure it out, but it's very interesting because, and I'm only saying this because I've just seen through in connection to like LA County per se. Perfect example. Completely different department, different culture. You know what I mean? Because it's not a city entity that's providing like, I guess, a political standpoint and I guess a service that we all have to kind of, I guess, fall back on. I don't know, man. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So trying to figure it out, dude. It's weird.
It is.
That's why I can't really put words to it, you know, because I'm understanding it from as because I'm coming up on like I have 8 years on now,
Okay.
you know, so I'm coming up on 10 years. I think the more time you have on, the more you're starting to understand the politics involving the everything going on with what we do.
Yes.
You know?
Well, I'm coming up on 17 years on, and currently I'm the vice president of our union, one of the 3 vice presidents. And with that, I get to see the political side of stuff now, which my eyes were closed to that for a long time, and now I'm finally seeing the other side of the fire service as well.
It's weird, right?
It is.
And it's hard. I bet it's super difficult to do, like, because you're doing both jobs per se, right? And then being part of the union is really like a voluntary service, you know, it's extra work.
It is. And luckily for me, being on the union, I've been on the union for almost 8 years now, a board member, and then the past year, vice president. And with that, I've been luckily given the title of director of behavioral health for the union, which I'm very honored that I get to advocate and push for behavioral health, mental health through the fire service. So it gives me a good place and a good platform to help push my I don't know, my beliefs and my motives and everything I stand for.
Yeah, and you're kind of like trailblazing the behavioral health stuff because I guess back then it wasn't really existent, right? Let's say 5-6 years ago even, right? And it's really, we're seeing a lot of change over the last couple years. And when you're pushed up against a lot of red tape, it's really hard and resistance from the older traditions and older paradigms, right? I think it's really honorable to do something like that, to step forward and be like, hey, there's something going on. There's something wrong with how we're dealing with this. And there has to be some type of shift with how and repositioning the way we approach this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think with Long Beach, we've done a really good job for a long time of doing CISD, which is critical incident stress debriefing. So after a traumatic call, we're able to take a units out of service and then do a debrief with them immediately and talk about really their feelings, what happened on that call, get closure, and then it kind of helps people heal. And that all started maybe the late 80s. We had Vietnam vets who came in, and that's kind of what they saw and what they were doing in Vietnam, and they brought that to the fire service. So we've kind of been really good at addressing critical incident stress debriefings. And now within the past few years, we're getting better at peer support and helping with resiliency. I think that's the biggest key is we're going to be in this and we're going to see this and we're going to do what we're doing. Yeah. But how can we be resilient to what we're doing? And I think that's really the big push now.
What do you think is like one of the key components of like that resiliency?
Community.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, being able to talk to somebody and open up and let them know really if something bothered you or where you're at, or, you know, have that trusted person that you can talk to, or even a crew. If it's not your crew, then somebody on your crew that you can openly talk to. And I think that's where we're getting a better job. And I don't know if it's just me, because of who I am and what people know I'm about. But anytime I walk into a different fire station, it seems like the kitchen table, we end up talking about behavioral health. And I don't know if that's just the culture shift and everybody's doing that, or it's just when I'm sitting there. But it's pretty impressive to see a lot of guys talking about, I saw a clinician, or I went to the doctor this week, or I'm doing meditation, I'm doing this. And it's kind of mind blowing that that's the common talk at the kitchen table right now, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that in our department. Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear involved with like your image and your identity.
Yes.
Because I'll have guys come up to me outside the kitchen table and ask me questions. Hey, John, like, what about this? What about that? I'm dealing with this or whatever. But they won't be open about it. You know, and I think it's just changing because we also have a very young department now, and the whole generation is completely like it's wobbling, on a teeter-totter scale.
Yeah.
It's very different. You know what I mean? So I'm very curious to see it happen. But no, that's really helpful to see that you guys are doing that more.
And I think a lot of people got to see my story unfold in front of them and got to see through my career what I've done, where I've been, and where I am now. And it's kind of a testament to you can get better and you can heal yourself even when you're in a bad place.
Yeah, there's like this really ancient Chinese proverb. It's like 100 sayings is worth one showing. So like, yeah, you show someone without and one of my really good mentors told me, like, in reference to like Haley, my fiance, he was like, don't tell her, show her. And really showing up, being that is huge, man. So I know we're kind of you kind of segued into talking about your story. So I know our stories are very powerful. They hold so much truth and value in that. And just to see, like, man, when you talk about things that happened in the past, it's cool when you do talk about it, because the further you get from it, it seems like an old story. Like, who was that person?
Yes.
Like, that's not me anymore. But now I can tell it like a third person perspective. You know what I mean? So I love for you to kind of share with the audience, just so other departments can hear, like, what led you to Halo's Heroes? What led you to where you're at today? What were the catalysts that just shook you from within,
Okay. Yeah. Well, I may get a little emotional. This still tugs at my heart a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm still, it's very hard to share my story because there's so much attachment, there's so much to me. I could start with my childhood. I had an amazing childhood. I can't say I had a good family support. And I would say about college, I started seeing firemen come into the gym when I was playing football at Cerritos College. And I would talk to them, and they kind of pushed me to get my EMT and follow the career of being a firefighter. So I was 19 years old and started pursuing being a firefighter. During that time, I went to EMT school through Cerritos College, and I started working as an EMT in AMR in the city of Long Beach. So we were responding 911 calls in the city of Long Beach. So at the age of 20, I started working on an ambulance in Long Beach, running 911 calls. And it was amazing. That was what I wanted to do. I get very locked in on things and obsessed, and I knew what it took to be a fireman, and I worked my ass off to get there. And that was my life. I went through El Camino Fire Academy. And then the opportunity came up to be an ambulance operator for the city of Long Beach. So I took that job, and I started working as ambulance operator. And take a step back, when I was at AMR, one of the first traumatic calls I ever experienced, that kind of blew me away was being almost the first unit on scene at 22 years old, 21 years old. And a father had, in his car, turned around and shot his child because he was in an argument with his wife, who was not there. And we pulled up on scene, 22-year-old, and pulled this child out of the car and the fire engine pulled up and we started assessing. And that was very eye-opening for me to be in that so young and seeing that firsthand. And ironically, that location is near my house right now. So I happen to see that, and that image comes through my head 20 years later. So more than that, 25 years later, I'm still having that attachment to that call. And that's the beginning of the way I was maybe filling my cup, as people like to say. So during my career, I was filling my cup over and over through all these little tiny traumas. And I didn't think anything of it, and I never addressed it because no one ever told me to. So during that time, I said I became an ambulance operator for Long Beach Fire, and I ended up getting married. And I got hired in 2008 as a Long Beach firefighter. Went through my academy. I did amazing. Graduated the academy. Got assigned my 2 rookie stations. After my year of probation, I went to over on the west side, Station 3, and I ended up working there for a long time. It was a very busy station, and I loved it. And probably 6 months into that assignment, I found out that my wife at the time was cheating on me. It destroyed me. I was the only person in my whole entire family to ever get a divorce, and it devastated me. So I took that pretty hard, and here I am, 24 years old, divorced, as a brand new firefighter, and I wasn't coping with it well. I was drinking a lot, and that's the way kind of my other buddies at the station were kind of getting my mind off of it. Were taking me out and we were drinking, and that was the way I was kind of dealing with my stress. Didn't think anything of it. So I continue this, self-sabotage of coping by drinking. And a little bit after that, I ended up meeting a really good friend of mine. She was a nurse at Long Beach Memorial Hospital. She was the trauma coordinator at the hospital, the pre-hospital care coordinator at Long Beach Memorial. And I walked in and I'm like, "Hey, I'm getting a divorce." She's like, "Me too." I was like, "Oh my gosh, you want to go out?" So we ended up having coffee and we hit it off, and it was amazing. She was everything to me. And like I said, she worked for our department. She taught my EMT during drill school.
Oh, really?
So I knew who she was, and I've known her ever since I was working at AMR. I had been seeing her since I was 20 years old, and it started. It was amazing. I ended up going. During that time, I had a knee injury, and during that knee injury, I started getting prescribed Vicodin. And during that time, I got sent to paramedic school. One of the most stressful times in my life was going through paramedic school.
Sure.
So obviously I had an in because my girlfriend at the time was a nurse. And so I had all the skills in the world, or all the stuff at home to be able to help me. But I was still choosing to drink during my whenever I was studying at night, I would be drinking, and the Vicodin was there. So I was taking Vicodin for the pain of my knee, and I didn't know that was another way that I was coping with stress. So I ended up getting married, and during that time, during my didactic training, my wife ended up getting pregnant, and right when I got my paramedic license, I had my son. So I ended up having surgery on my knee. Everything was great. I was working as a medic, and everything was life. Everything was wonderful in my life. Married, I had a son, and I'm working as a paramedic firefighter. Busy station. I was very happy, and I would say when my son was 9 months old, my wife was not feeling well. We were hiking in Yosemite, and some old lady passed her with a walker as we're hiking. And she was like, something is wrong with me. Like, I cannot, this lady's passing me. We end up going to the doctor, and immediately after that appointment, they told her she had stage 4 colon cancer. And I had a 9-month-old son at home, and my wife just got diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was devastated. My life got wrecked. So during that time, I'm still working at a very busy station. I'm taking care of a 9-month-old, and I'm taking my wife to chemo treatments. And that went on for a few months. I ended up, I was on a call as a medic for a respiratory distress. Lady in the shower, completely naked, wet, respiratory distress. We go in the shower, we pick her up, and as I'm carrying her, she slips out of my hand, and I hurt my back. So I ended up going home that day, or actually I got transported to the hospital. Well, that opened up unlimited Percocet for me. So the doctor was prescribing me 90 Percocets a month or every 2 weeks. And it was a prescribed medicine, so I was taking it. And I did not know at the time that I was taking that to hide my pain of what was going on in my life. So it never even dawned on me that that's what I was doing. So fast forward a few more months, I'm in the bathtub with my wife, and we're talking about, both of us at the time are having a pretty shitty life. I'm watching my wife die. Little by little, she's deteriorating and not the person who she used to be. And I'm very depressed. I had probably gained 80 pounds. I wasn't working out anymore. Another thing I was doing was eating. That was helping with my stress. And drinking and taking Percocet. And I was so depressed. So we're sitting in the bathtub, just casually talking, and she had told me that she wanted to take her own life, that she was tired of fighting, and that she was done. And we kind of had a FU fight. And I was like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it. And
Like Romeo and Juliet.
it was, yeah. So we were kind of we laughed it off, right? Like, whatever, tomorrow will be better. And I went to work the next day, and I was on the engine. While I was on the engine, we get toned out for a call for a suicide. attempt. And it was on the Anaheim Bridge right next to our station. We pull up immediately, like a minute after the dispatch. As soon as we're pulling up on the bridge, lady makes eye contact with me and she jumps. And we drive back to the bottom of the bridge. She was still alive. We worked her, took her to St. Mary's, and we ended up saving her life. And my captain at the time at the hospital looks her out and he goes, "Hey, we're doing a debriefing after this." So we go back to the station. We do a CISD debrief like we normally do. Everyone's kind of going around the table talking their portion of it. And it comes to me and I completely break down. That was the worst call of my life. And I didn't know it until we started talking about it. And that was the time where my wall came down and I got attached, because the night before my wife was telling me that she wanted to take her life. So when that lady looked me in the eye, I saw my wife look me in the eye and she jumped. And when I was intubating her, I was intubating my wife. And when we were doing compressions, I was doing compressions on my wife. And even if it was imaginary, it still happened in my mind and it destroyed me. But luckily during that debriefing, I said that, I shared that with my crew. And it was amazing to be able to, I hit a relief valve and I was able to share. That was the first time from my wife being diagnosed to all of this stuff, almost a 2-year process of me bottling everything up and just being the caretaker, taking care of her, taking care of my son, taking care of work, taking care of everything except for myself. And I'm almost very thankful. I am very thankful that that moment happened, because it got me connected with Dr. Heather Williams. And I ended up calling her the next day. We talked for hours on the phone. And that was the first professional I'd ever talked to. And it was the biggest relief for me to be able to get that off my chest and to have someone listen to me and have that connection. So during that time, probably a month later, my wife ended up passing away. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to openly talk to her the way I did after that moment. So for a few days, when she was not doing well, every time she closed her eyes, I would say goodbye to her because I didn't think she was going to wake up again. So we said goodbye probably 30 times, and everything to the point of amazing conversations of, hey, if you marry a blonde, I will haunt you. I want someone to take care of my son. I want she laid out all of this stuff for me, which was amazing.
Wow.
And on top of that, I cannot ever thank the Long Beach Fire Department enough for the whole entire department went out of their way and took care of me. The way, when you hear family and everyone says, I want to be a fireman because of family, that's what everyone says in our interviews. And I don't know if they really realize what that means, but I got to realize what that means. And I had maybe 75 guys over my house doing work.
Wow.
Concrete. They put in a whole entire barbecue, backyard, fire pit. They took care of me. They worked trades for me for 6 months while I was off. They said, hey, be home. We're going to work for you. I had guys checking up on me all the time. I am so thankful and ever indebted to the Long Beach Fire Department for taking such good care of me. And I think that's kind of why I want to give back so bad, is because I guess when you become a subject matter expert in the fire service, you're supposed to turn around and teach other guys what you've learned.
Right.
And I feel like I'm indebted to turn around and teach everyone all the life lessons that I have learned, because they did such an amazing job taking care of me. So thank you for everybody that helped me. But so during that time, after my wife passed, she had told me, she goes, you need to clean up your act. And she's like, promise me after I'm gone, you will get help. So, I was embarrassed. There was shame, because here I am addicted to Percocet, Vicodin, alcohol. And, I was just numb all the time so cold turkey. I completely stopped, the Percocet, the Vicodin, and alcohol. And I was going through withdrawals by myself. I was embarrassed, so I didn't go through any programs. I didn't get any help. I just locked myself in my house and did it by myself.
Wow.
And it was terrible. And I don't want anybody to ever do that. And because I didn't know of all these other programs that were out there. No one talked about it. No one ever talked, that there's treatment programs, that there's I guess there's AA and all this other stuff,
Right.
but it wasn't, I didn't know it was so normal. So I did it by myself, and I ended up getting addicted to psychologists. I think I was seeing 3 at one time.
Oh, nice.
3 different psychologists at the same time, because they were making me feel amazing. Here I am going through this amazing change and transforming to somebody different, and all because they're giving me little tricks and tools, and they're unconditionally listening to me, which was amazing. So during that time, I'm healing myself, and I'm not drinking. I'm not doing prescription drugs anymore. And I'm back at work now, and I want to say my first week back, I end up getting toned out to a second alarm fire, just up the street here. And, and I was on the truck, and medic on the truck, which was pretty amazing. And, we end up putting the stick up, and they have me go up to the top, and I'm flowing water from the top of the ladder. And here I am, like, this is like highlight of my career, right? On the tip of the stick, flowing water on a second alarm fire. I should be the biggest smile on my face. And during that time, I slipped a little bit, and it kind of caught me like, oh shit, I almost fell. And after that moment, I could not get that thought out of my head. And I was like, well, what if I did fall? It might be good. And I started having a pity party. And then I started thinking, well, I knew, but that was my anniversary with my wife. So that would have been our 4-year anniversary on that day. And I started having a pity party for myself. And I didn't mention this before, but a few months before, they had found a mass on one of my testicles. And I was getting ready for an operation, they're going to either figure out if I was going to start chemo, and they were going to remove a testicle, or, or if it was benign. So here I am in limbo, thinking I'm going to be dying of cancer. Pity party, that, today should have been my 4-year anniversary. And I have a 1.5-year-old at home who's driving me crazy. And I'm not sleeping. So, during that time on that ladder for 45 minutes, I was sitting there thinking, I wonder if I should jump. And, I did not. I came down and I ended up going home for, I think I said I had a shoulder injury or something, because I was disgusted with myself that was the thought, and that's where my mind was taking me at the moment. I all my other tools that I had used in the past weren't available to me. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't taking prescription drugs. I wasn't eating like binge eating like I was before. So I didn't have an outlet for that stress. So it was in a weird place for me. So I came home from work, came home that day, and I had a fuck you fight with God. And I went out in my backyard and I'm yelling, and here I am, a crazy person screaming at the top of my lungs in my backyard. And I had such a relief at that moment because I gave in and I accepted my life and that I'm not in control. And I gave my control over to God. And I said, send me signs and I will do what you ask. And I hate to say this because I sound crazy, but I saw a shooting star across the sky and I dropped on my knees and I said, keep leading me. And I feel like that's where I am today, is I keep taking those little intuitions and I know it's a sign that I'm on the right track. So that is one of my motives and my reasoning for I do what I do. But also, like I said, I want to give back and let people learn from my mistakes so they're not gonna be where I was, because I don't want anybody to be where I was. I was in a bad place. It was dark. I was alone and I was shameful. And it just, I don't want to see any of my other brothers and sisters or anybody in that headspace. So after that day, I ended up still seeing my counselors and still working on myself progressively. I ended up meeting my current wife. She was amazing. She came into my life and she was the type of person I needed. She didn't really drink. If she did have a drink, she wouldn't even finish what she started. She would have a couple sips and leave it on the counter. And that's what I needed in my life. Everyone else I had always been with, drinking was part of their life. And I stopped hanging out with a lot of the friends I used to hang out with because that was part of their life, was drinking. And I couldn't associate myself and put myself in that situation. So she came in and she was an athlete. She was a college volleyball player. She's a teacher. She has patience. She's a deaf and hard of hearing high school teacher. So she has amazing patience, which I need in my life. She kept me on track, and she gave me the security in my life that I can do whatever I wanted and she would support me. And we ended up getting married, and on our flight home, I turned to her and I say, hey, I need to start giving back. I want to start a nonprofit organization. And just at that time, a song came on. Drawing a blank on the Halos and it's a country song. Anyways, I'm like, that's the name. It's going to be Halos for Heroes. And I went out and I started working with Dr. Heather Williams, and I started reaching out, and I wanted to create a organization or a group that was like-minded for first responders and a safe place to be able to share. And we started out by working on motorcycles in my garage. And that's kind of, I thought, hey, nobody really wants to talk about their feelings, but if we're wrenching on something and working, the conversation starts. So that was kind of what we started doing, was working on motorcycles, and then we started racing them, flat track racing. So that was kind of the start to my support groups. And then it transitioned a year later into just regular organized support groups at our union hall. So that was one of the goals with Halos for Heroes. Another one was free education. That was something I was really pushing. Was I wanted to be able to get education for first responders for free. I know there's a lot of organizations out there that are making money on first responders and on behavioral health stuff, and I wasn't into that. So everybody I've always met, and I tried to bring them into my circle. That's kind of one of the first questions I ask is, are you doing this financially, or are you doing this because you really want to help somebody?
Right.
If you want to really help somebody, you're on my team. If you're doing this because you want to make money, I don't have a place for you. So
I like that.
It is. And that's why I've been trying to bring a lot of people in who are not in it financially. They just have the heart and they have the story and they want to give back. And that's kind of really the like-minded group that I'm looking for is people out there who are making a difference and who want to help other first responders.
You can tell which ones are the snakes too, right? I mean, it's really hard to bullshit a fireman. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Dude, thank you so much for telling that story. You know, I remember meeting you and we talked and you were sharing the part of this story with me, and it really hit home with me, man. I just felt so many of the things that you have felt.
Yeah.
So I know what it is, and it's a trance at some point, you know, and I think just hearing you speak about the awareness you had about these things really is an awakening, you know, to your true essence of who you are, you know, and to see how everything was so connected, you know, that's huge too. And because for some reason, we put off how connected everything is, even down to our thoughts, you know, and I know when having a thought of suicide ideation when it first comes, it really rattles your spirit to be appalled by that something that's creeping in there, you know. And you know what's interesting too is when the substances are removed from the system, that's when you really the levee breaks, right? And the mind plays off, you know, whatever you've been holding for quite some time, you know. And I find it to be really fascinating because it disturbed me at first, you know, and I think after a while I began to see it as humorous, you know, but it took me a while to get there. It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. It's devastating. I mean, to have those thoughts go through your head and you're entertaining them.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I've unfortunately I've seen a lot of completed suicides. I've seen a lot of them, and I don't know. I'm still curious myself if that's what makes us first responders so okay with it.
Yeah,
is because we've seen so many, and it just becomes second nature to us that all right, or we see so many people who are deceased. It's part of our normal day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really is what's making other first responders take their own lives.
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think if there's something within you that is that's reflecting on the outside of whatever's on our external world, there has to be some type of connection there as well. You know, because of that's what disturbed me too for a while, is going on a lot all at once, and so many different forms of suicide that I would witness, and it would start to creep in little by little. I noticed because it just wrecked me in a certain way that was different from any other call. Especially like when I would go into people's homes. I think that was a darkness when there's like notes and and the energy I felt was more palpable. That I think that's what kind of got to me in a certain way or form. But now I've changed my perspective on it because I've worked on that wound. And I think when I have understood the root cause of that wound, then I'm not susceptible from any type of outside resource or external cause to kind of come into that space. I don't allow it to come into that space. Some protection there.
Yeah.
From more understanding. I think a lot of times we need more understanding underneath it all. And if we don't have the understanding through usually for someone to guide you to get to that understanding, then you won't get there. And we hide and avoid from our wounds because they hurt. And when we have deeper hurt, we avoid it.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to go there. we got a life to live. And
Right.
But after a while of doing deep introspection and deeper work on myself, I'm able to help guide other people, to have better understanding, and I learned from trauma, making more trauma in my life,
Yeah.
because I just would create more problems, but thanks, man. I really appreciate you. I really think it's really valuable, man. I know I just had Maddie on episode before.
Yeah.
And there's something happening here, dude, of some of us who have gone through it, and we really understand. And once we understand like that space of suffering, we don't want anyone else to go there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Me and Maddie have a really good connection. I think we met 7 years ago, and we immediately felt a connection with each other. And I knew he had a good heart and he was in a right place and he was kind of on the same mission I was on.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that our lives keep going together and we're following each other.
Yeah, dude. I think we were trying to talk about like, what can we do? 'Cause we are seeing the greedy hands that are trying to creep into these behavioral health things with firefighters and first responders because they know they all have insurance. So we're all seeing that number one is something that's going on. All the sharks kind of coming around the corner under the surface. And so we're seeing that common theme, The second thing is us who have a heart to really reach out and make some impact, That's the second thing. And there's many atoms to the equation, but I think those two things, there has to be something different on top of it, of the regular therapy stuff, And I think in the next couple of years, there's going to be some big changes, with how treatment's provided, how we're perceiving what trauma is for some of us, because we're a very unique blend of the workload, the stress, the burnout, the family life, it's very intricate. I think it's really difficult to understand unless you are really competent culturally of what it entails, For me, I think the burnout really gets to me, I'm still dealing with that today.
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with someone yesterday about it, the autopilot feeling, when you're working a lot of days in a row, that feeling disconnects me. And we talked about connection earlier. And when I'm in autopilot, I'm just running through the motions, dude. I really don't care. And I just want to just work.
Yeah.
Because I'm making money.
Yeah.
In the end, I'm just being truthful.
Yep.
And I'm being honest with myself. And I think that's what really changes me is when I'm being honest with myself instead of just lying until autopilot turns off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I know Long Beach is very busy. Along with us, I love talking to guys who work in busy departments because when you work for a really busy department and you guys train and you guys do all these other things, dude, it's a lot. It's a workload. It's a heavy burden to carry, but we have to do that in order to do this job because we actually go to fires unlike other departments. And we actually run like calls all day, all night, right? And so I'd love to hear your kind of perspective on that, man, and what you're seeing with members on how they handle it, how they cope with it. What are the tools you think are really useful for that resilience and so forth?
Well, on top of what you were saying, our department is also almost, man, since I got hired in '08, we've been on a staffing shortage.
Yes.
Because we didn't hire for a
For
long
sure.
time. So my class, we didn't hire 6 years after me was the next class that got hired. So my whole entire career, I'm still in the rank as a firefighter right now. So my whole entire career, I have been forced to work. So we get mandatories, and I would say currently right now, I'm getting mandatoried every 6 days. So every 6 days, I am getting forced to work, almost like clockwork. 6 days, I'm forced, which in my eyes is a relief, because a year and a half ago, I was getting forced every 3 days.
Oh,
So this is amazing, but yeah, this is how the normalcy is. Me being forced every 6 days is normal, and I'm acceptable. It's okay because it's not every 3 days.
what's the punishment if you don't work those mandatory days?
Well,
I know some departments are different, that's why I ask.
yeah, there's only one acceptable reason for not showing up, and that's being sick. Other than that, you'll get probably written up, or there'll be tiered discipline after that. So that's on top of our other workload of
Right.
some of our fire stations are running 18 to 30 calls a shift. Some of the rescues are running that many, and transporting and driving out of the town because our hospitals are closed.
Right.
These guys are so overworked and busy, and the training, everything on top of it does not stop. So you're asking what the tools are? Man. Well, one of the things that we just got in all of Long Beach fire stations is we've been able to acquire cold plunges and saunas in every single fire station.
That's rad.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know that just that little bit of being able to, I don't know. Do you cold plunge?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one in my backyard, and we have one at the station too.
Okay.
But not all stations have them.
Yeah.
It's coming, but
So I'm a very firm believer in doing something you don't want to do. It calluses your brain. So like how you callus your hands by working out, they get tougher. Well, what are you doing to strengthen your mind?
yeah.
Doing hard stuff is strengthening. I do not want to get in cold water. So if I am able to get in there and do that, I feel like that's strengthening my decision making for later in the day. Running, I absolutely hate running. Absolutely hate running. But I tend to do it every day because I know that that's the hardest part of my day. And if I can get through that, everything else is easy. So I force myself to do hard things. And that's so, like I think I told you earlier, I couldn't get in the cold plunge this morning. At 5:30 in the morning, I'm just sitting there staring at it.
That's pretty early, dude.
It is. And I was like, maybe I'll do it later. But those hard things help you callous your brain, and you can make other decisions later in the day that are hard, and they're not going to be that hard for you anymore because you're able to continually do these hard things. So I'm pretty happy, and I'm telling everybody that they need to do the cold plunge, and they need to test themselves and push themselves, and it feels good for yourself too.
Yeah.
The saunas are great. We have a contract right now with Counseling Team International. So With that, all of our members get 10 free counseling sessions for any issue that they're having. So I know a lot of people are taking advantage of that right now, which is amazing. I walk into some fire stations and somebody will pull me aside and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm seeing a psychologist." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Who are you seeing?" They'll tell me. And then 20 minutes later, another crew member will pull me aside. "Hey, I'm seeing a psychologist." Who are you seeing? They're like, "Oh," I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "You guys are seeing the exact same person and you're not even talking about it together because they're still a little bit embarrassed
Right.
or they're not going to share." And then later, someone else will pull me in. "Hey, I'm seeing a psychologist." "Who you seeing?" And they'll tell me. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, everybody here is seeing the same person. They're not even talking about it."
Yeah.
So hopefully that will change soon. But I'm feeling pretty happy that a lot of times people were pulling me aside and happily telling me that they're seeing a psychologist. So I think that's a big change right now as well.
That's good. Yeah. I think, the only reason why I ask is because I know personal practice is so important. That's why I'm curious on, what is happening for people. And you have to be determined with your personal practice. Like you have to know every day is different. Like I'm not the same person I was last week. I'm always in a state of evolution. And I am just offering something to myself each day in order to honor who I am. And the thing is with personal practice is it can change. Each day is different, right? So you have to know what's right for you. And I just had a funny conversation with a younger guy at the station, and it was on the means of like challenging yourself, right? And he asked me how I challenge myself, and I say meditation. And because meditation is really challenging, and he didn't understand. I was like, "Hey, try sitting down, no sound, no movement for 30 minutes and see how that is challenging for you." And it really is a muscle you're exercising with the mind thing, because essentially, and I'm a true believer in, if you do not manage your thoughts or learn how it's operating, then you're losing connection to yourself, and you're losing the ability to know what to do or maneuver when it's starting to act up, when it's starting to rev up. And that's a great personal practice that I've instilled in other people. I challenge others to do it because it's really difficult,
And even like for me, meditation helped me realize when I was thinking. That was
I like that.
so. Am I thinking, or are these my own like beliefs, or this is just random stuff that's just coming through my head in and out, and I don't have to bite on it.
Yeah, I like that.
So it really helped me realize, and I did that a lot when I was first trying to meditate. Is I would say out loud, thinking, and then I would know that my mind wasn't clear anymore. So I would always just sit there, and then something would come in, and I'd be like, thinking, and I would try to get back to clearing my mind.
I like that. And what really was amazing in the story you told is getting on your knees and like, just screaming at God. Like that is a moment I have hit in my life. And I call that the surrendering heart. And there's something within us in our timeline of life where we have to get to a point of surrender, where we cannot do it alone. And on top of that, you have to just get down on your knees and just completely let go. And there's something really powerful about that. I don't know if anyone else has ever reached that point of their life, but when you hit that point, there's a moment of transformation within yourself that is beyond understanding. And I don't know really how to describe it, other than it's just a surrendering state of the self. It's almost like a death, a mini death within, that it's been itching at you. There's a cycle that's been wanting to end until that point. And I know I've hit versions of that surrendering heart moving forward, and it's changed its own state and how that surrendering heart has presented itself. And I know I have I have mentors who are able to actually show me what that is. And I think with the whole suicide thing and the feeling of doom and death within ourselves, all that is just that a cycle is completing itself and it needs to close a chapter. So the integration of that past timeline of events needs to come to a closure. So what it really is itching at you to want you to do that. It wants you to integrate those emotions that you've had to deal with the last 2 years. It wants you to go back into the memories and really understand what is showing up with you emotionally and mentally and physically. And when you understand how it's working, how it's operating, then you can have some more perspective. Change. You're like, okay, I can work through this because I'm realizing what's going on here. And I think there's a lot of psychological armchair situations happening with these psychiatrists and therapists when they're dealing with someone's suffering. And I think all they can do is just kind of point you in the right direction. But if you see it like this in this type of perspective, you realize there's some work to be done. Mm-hmm. And the only person who can do that is yourself. And so having a personal practice is really beneficial because when you do those, you shock the body, right, through a cold plunge, or you challenge yourself mentally. Sometimes a light bulb pops off, a memory of something that happened during the week that you need to face. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what was really valuable about these personal practices because they can be an illuminating guidance to how to integrate your life. And one of my teachers had explained to me there are 5 states of harmony. And one of them is being relaxed and calm, natural, integrated, and also, what was the last one? Shit, man, that's gonna drive me nuts. It was really powerful the way she explained it to me because I was like, whoa. Unified was the last one. Because in general, we always want to hit a state of harmony. And harmony just means you're hitting a note on point to where it's resonating very well between your physical body within those around you, and you're gonna feel aligned, And so those personal practices are really powerful. And I just want to reiterate that for others who are listening that if you don't have a personal practice now, find one because that is essential to this mental health situation that we're seeing. And the way I see it within myself, I have to have it. It's non-negotiable. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know it is for you. Yep. I have to have something. Yes. You know what I mean? And I think it's really important.
Almost become obsessive about it.
For sure.
I mean, you have to. You have to be obsessive about making yourself better. Or you're just going to forget it and it's going to be put on the back burner and you're not going to think about it again. But unless that is what you are obsessed with is I can only get better. Let's get 1% better every day. I can get 1% better, and you'll get there. One of the listening to you talk about practices, and one of the things that I did when I was in my depression was bad. Mm-hmm. Like there was days where I would literally be in bed the whole entire day, just having a pity party for myself, and I no matter what I could not get out of bed. I would get up in the morning and I would take my son to preschool. I would come back home and I would get in bed and I would lay there until the bell rang or until I had to get him from preschool again. And then I would come up and I would interact with him for 3 hours, put him to sleep, and then I would go back to bed. Mm-hmm. And I did that for days, for a long time. And the practices that I had to do was like, I had to go to the gym. I had to get out of the house. I had to be physically active. So I made it a point to go to the gym to go stretch. And that was an accomplishment for me. If I can get to the gym and stretch, that's all I wanted to do. And I can come home and go back in bed. But the point of me, I would get my clothes out at night, the night before, get them out, get them ready. And then I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to be around people. But over time, making myself do that, I started growing a habit. And I ended up finding myself, I'm ready at the gym. I might as well do a set over here. Mm-hmm. Or I might as well do this. I might as well do this. And it turned into, you know, every single day I was showing up. Some days that's all I did was show up. And other days I actually put some effort in. But that slowly helped me get out of that depression, was just showing up every single day. And then another thing that worked for me as well was, as first responders, we're fixers. People call us in the worst moment of their life to come fix their problem. And when we have problems in our lives and we can't fix our own problems, it's shitty.
Yeah.
Because here I am fixing these problems for everyone else, and I can't fix these little problems in my life. So Dr. Heather Williams had told me one of the things to do is fix something in your house. You got a loose doorknob that's kind of, every time you wiggle it, it shakes a little bit. Go tighten that doorknob and you will feel like you did something. So that was kind of, whenever I was feeling lost, or I would go do some tiny little task that would fix a problem physically in my house. And that really helped me out a lot too.
Yeah, I get that. I can go deeper with that one. You know, the thing with that is I would disassociate with tasks in my house to avoid from seeing what's going on within me. You know, and I think I don't want to face an emotion, or I don't want to face something that came up in my memory because it hurts or it's scary or there's something that's disturbing me about it. And so I know Dr. Heather Williams has told me before too, sitting in discomfort, you know, and so I think it depends on the resiliency of the person to see if they have the power to sit with it, you know, and in the end, there's nothing that can fix anything except with sitting with it. And when I had to come across something like this, a friend of mine told me, like, there's nothing to actually fix. You know, that's why integration is so important. There's nothing to fix, nothing to heal. It's about bringing things to an alignment and to also bringing everything that's already whole together again. And that really hit me because I was addicted to my healing. And I think that was also a disassociative factor within myself, because I was a professional at disassociation. And I think this goes with everyone's different, right? But I just noticed that within myself, I am good at disassociating. And if it wasn't with alcohol, if it wasn't with my other addictions, it was with something else that had to replace it. And so to fully get underneath my own addiction behavior, I had to realize, okay, well, what's my truest state? What's my truest existence without a substance or an act of doing something? And so I think when we talk about personal practice and things, do something that makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
It can be any one of those things, and it could be reading a book or whatever. I personally feel stressed out fixing something. That stresses because I do it all the time at work.
Yeah.
So I actually have a fight with my fiance at home when she asked me to fix something. I'm like, damn it, dude, I just fixed something all day yesterday at the station.
Right.
And you're asking, and so that turned into something else, which is funny because that's showing me like what I need to look at, right? Which is patience, right? And looking at something and just sitting with how to fix something. You know what I mean? But that comes into a core wound of myself. Well, I had to fix something with my dad and he would get angry at me. So all this stuff like is so connected, man, and it's so interesting. Dr. Heather Williams is great, man. We've had her on twice now. I think we're past due for another episode with her. But that's how I got connected to her through you, brother.
Yeah,
So thank you for that. And I don't know, man. Is there anything that's been kind of showing up in your timeline recently that you're seeing that's a common thread for firefighters recently, or a common theme you've kind of seen that's shown up?
No. So a few years ago, I got a different assignment. I was working as a medic, and I got a different assignment assigned to the Heart Unit, which is our homeless engagement team. So I was driving around the city, going through homeless encampments and meeting individuals and trying to get them connected with help. So that was amazing for my career because I got a lot of training on how to talk to people, on how to do like mental health care for a lot of people, which in turn I'm able to use on our first responders now. But during that time of talking to all the people experiencing homelessness, there's no two stories that are the same. Everybody got to where they are from a completely different story. Every story is completely unique. And I think that's how firefighters are too, is, you know, there's a lot of childhood trauma that comes along with people. And that's obviously why we do the job that we do, because people are trying to give back or trying to fix problems that they had as a child. So they bring that baggage with them. So that's an issue that a lot of people have, is childhood traumas. Marriage issues is another big problem. And that's, you know, we're gone a lot. It's very hard on our spouses, that, you know, here I am gone 15 days a month, and my wife is raising 2 kids and working and taking them to sports and taking them to piano and all these other things that we add on to our lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not there for any of it. So, and then I come home and I think I'm the king of the house, but no, she's the one who's running the house.
Yeah.
And I just need to follow in with because I'm gone. So there's a lot of marital issues as well. Alcohol, that's another acceptable way that people treat themselves, and it's not just in the fire service, it's in the whole entire public.
For sure.
That is the way you can easily numb yourself and continue on with your day and not have to think about anything else in your life. It numbs you, and that's why it's so popular. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a few of the things that I'm seeing.
Yeah, alcohol is a big one, I think, man.
And in the fire service, it's very acceptable.
Yeah.
To, you know, you get off at 8 a.m. and you go to the bar with your guys, have a couple drinks, and then you go take a nap for 4 hours because you didn't sleep the night before.
Right.
That was part of my life for a long time. That was a regular part of my life before I had kids.
Right.
That's what I did every day. I would go have a couple drinks. I'd have breakfast, catch up with my litter mates, and, you know, figure out what we did the day before, learn from each other, and then go take a nap.
No, dude, you're speaking a regular routine for a lot of people, you know.
And I didn't know that wasn't normal. Really, actually, until I met my current wife. When she was like, "Oh, I drink like once a month." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, it's normal. Like, people don't drink every day."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Really?" That was kind of mind opening for me.
Yeah, I had to come to an honest agreement with myself of realizing I was an alcoholic for 15 plus years, you know, because every day on my off day, I was drinking. There was no day I had without drinking.
Well, for me, we are able to do so much in the fire service. We live a normal life. We live in a house. We're with our family of our crew. That the only way you know that you're not working is if you can have a beer or not. Truly, that's how it was in my mind. That's the only difference between me being at work and me being at home, is I can have a beer at home. I can't have one at work.
That's a good point. I like that.
That's how I knew I was off duty.
Yeah, and the thing too is like because we work so much, right? That you feel you need something to decompress, and alcohol is a normal thing to do when you decompress. You know, I think it's tough, man. And you know, I had a hard time with alcohol because it was making my head injury worse, and so I was forced to stop, and I kept pushing the limits until I was like, man, I have to stop, or I can't survive. You know. And I think over time, like the studies, I had to study alcohol too, where it was affecting my brain and brain health and disrupting gray matter in the brain. And like it's like one of the worst things. I think there's a list that was labeled for the worst drugs to be addicted to. And it was like, alcohol was the worst out of all of them for brain function. And I was like, whoa, Dude, that was an awakening moment for me, man. And it's hard. It's a hard truth to swallow when it's so acceptable, and it's technically poison, and I've talked about this at the station before, and guys don't want to hear it, man. They really don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've determined to, and I don't like to push upon my own truths and awareness on other people. They have to come to it by themselves, However, I do like explaining what's the cold hard truth to something that you're putting into your body. I think because we talked about earlier, like, show up and be the testament, right?
Yes.
Because I don't put certain foods in my body, and I've been made fun of at the station because of that. You know what I mean? I don't eat processed food. I don't eat gluten. And so. And the reason for that is because I feel sluggish. I feel terrible after I eat those foods, and especially after I've removed it, and I put it back into my body, I get sick now because I've done it for such a long time. And I love how you had mentioned before of even seeing your addiction to food, because there's a lot of stress eating within the fire service.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Donuts.
Yeah.
Someone will
Totally.
bring a box of donuts in. Nobody will touch them. And then later that night, they're all gone. That's so weird.
Oh my God, dude. It's totally true. Yeah. So stress eating is one of the big ones. And I think we don't understand that actually sugar can be a creeping addiction that can be a start without an awareness to it, and complex carbs. And so, I've told people, I used to eat like that, but I would feel terrible. And I think I've gained connection to myself and my physical body, my biological form, to where after I just remove things and then re-enter them, I know that it doesn't resonate with me anymore. It doesn't feel good anymore. And so I'm in the business of feeling good, and I'm also in the business of understanding the human spirit. And so anything that's going to dumb down or disturb my human spirit, then I have to remove it. I'm sorry. I have to stick to my integrity with that, But that was a hard one because I did a lot of it seems like I'm the black sheep, per se, at every fire station I've been to, and it seems like, oh, that guy's like, he's acting strange or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in our department, our culture is very, it's a shameful culture, and I hate to say it, just what it is. So I think that's what's hurting us too. And I think we talked about that with Maddie our last episode, was that this shame-based culture is really what's killing us. And he's the one who he mentioned that, and it really struck home with me. It's true.
Yeah.
So I think if we can maneuver our way around shameful-based culture, then we can make a really big change. And it really has to start with the leadership, man. It really has to start with the leadership to be that testament of the shame-based opportunities to teach. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's really a small paper cut that's going to lead into other things, to where shame now becomes a core wound of ours. Individually, each person knows that we immediately feel shame, and then we start to massacre ourselves, and that's where that now leads to suicide ideation. There's a frequency list where there was a muscle testing off emotions, and it was labeled, and shame was the bottom of that list. It's one of the worst frequencies in it, and eventually it leads to ending your life. When you really are leveling out on that frequency of shame, it's the worst feeling. You feel disgusting with yourself, and you can't honor who you are with that, or love yourself.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie or documentary, Risky Drinking?
No.
You should watch it.
Okay.
I don't know where you could find it at, but Risky Drinking.
It's like an independent film documentary?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw
Check
it
it out.
quite a few years ago, and I try, if anybody ever tells me like they're drinking too much, or they, any mention about them wanting to stop drinking, I always tell them to watch that movie.
Oh.
And it follows 3 different people, like a college student, an older adult, maybe 60s, 70s, and then a 40-year-old. and it's different parts of their lives and how one of them's a binge drinker. The college girl is binge drinking, and so it shows her going out and just every time she drinks, it's binging. And then it shows the older man who cannot. He starts shaking if he's not drinking, and his wife drives him to work, and he's drinking in the parking lot before he goes to work because if not, he'll shake. And it's very eye opening of just 3 different lives and how you're so close to that.
Yeah.
So it's a good one. You need to watch that. I've shared it a lot. A few times I've watched it in a fire station, and
Interesting. I have to check that out, man. Yeah, I mean, I would scheme on when I would be at work to know the days I would like purposefully get fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I knew, like I was like, oh, I'm waiting for this day because I'm gonna get trashed.
Yeah.
And I was always looking back on those times because I would look for those glory days, with the boys and the stories to be told and have some state of victory on those moments, and what a ass backwards way to look at things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's crazy how that's just, you act like that at the station. You're seen as like the cool guy,
Right.
to be like that,
Yep.
and, I really play with it at the station, especially as like, to be a change maker, and a trailblazer in your behavior
And lead by example.
Yeah. And I find it to be hilarious, to see people who like they're threatened by that behavior that's integral. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not, you're one of the minority with that. And I think, that's what it really takes, man. And, the only reason why is because I hope other people just see the truth, and the truth is just so important when we live it. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. But in hindsight, man, I really do believe, like, in reference to like your department and my department that I work for, like, there has to be a unified thing going on, So I hope for us to work together in the near future to help kind of like just bringing everyone together, like everyone in arms, like kind of like Martin Luther King, just like marching through the streets, like just we want that change, but it really has to do with everyone coming together in that unified connection, Yep. That's what I see in the future.
Yeah.
But what does it take, dude? Does it take more suicides, and more guys going to treatment for 90 days?
I really, so what does it take? I think it takes first responders to be treated like professional athletes. That's what the shift, and that's kind of right now. I'm in the middle of I'm helping to design a comprehensive behavioral health program for our department, and hopefully that will go on to other departments as well.
Yeah.
But I really want to establish a full comprehensive behavioral health system. And like I said, we need to treat our guys like professional athletes.
Yeah.
I would love to have a wellness center, and I'm going to keep pushing hard for that.
Yeah.
I want a facility where we have a personal trainer who guys who are on injury, they can come there and get extra treatment from, instead of the 10 sessions that they're getting through workers' comp, come here and get yourself better.
Yeah.
Like, come back to work. Like, get yourself better than when you were injured, because you have the time off right now. So come get extra training. I want a psychologist in that office where that's a normal face that people see every single day. I want somebody in there, a secretary, calling our guys who are in injury and making sure that they're okay. That's the biggest part of guys who are on injury, are the guys who are most susceptible
for sure.
to suicide, because you're cut off from your brotherhood. You don't have a purpose anymore. You're on narcotics and you're home alone.
And you're in physical pain.
Yeah. So we need to do a better job checking in on these guys and girls. And Resiliency training. We need to be able to get more resiliency training out there. We're trying to get a good push right now to get 3 trainings a year to our guys. One of them will be in person, 2 of them will be video, where it's all about resiliency or behavioral health training. On top of that, we need I would really love to get an annual wellness check-in. So mandatory, every year you go see a clinician and you just meet that person, you talk to them for an hour, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And that way it establishes a relationship with somebody. So when you are in a bad place, you already have a connection with the psychologist that you can call, and you already have a relationship with them. So I would love for us to get into annual check-ins.
Yeah, I think that's important.
I think so too.
Yeah. Those are good ideas, man.
Yes,
like
I'm pushing so hard, and that's where I feel like I'm in a good place where I'm able to have meetings with people and to slowly build this system. And I'm not doing it alone. We have a advisory committee that's helping me. And then I'm working closely with our peer support coordinator as well for the department. So with that, like even like free training, like I was telling you, Halos for Heroes, that's one of the goals I wanted to do next month, or this month actually. What day is it? On the 14th, Friday the 14th at our Union Hall, we're having Counseling Team International is providing clinicians to come in and do a behavioral health training for free. It's from 8 to 12. And they're going to just talk about resiliency.
You sent that to me, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's mostly aimed for peer support personnel, but anybody will get information out of this that they can use. So I'm very thankful that Dr. Odom from Counseling International, I talked to him quite a bit. He's a really good friend of mine right now, and I'm able to, he's work with me to be able to provide free training for first responders. And this is one of 4 that we're doing this year. So, and with that, we're trying to encourage more people to come and get this free training. And he's offering a raffle ticket for a retreat. So if you go to one of these training sessions, your name could be drawn for one of their $3,000 retreats that they offer, which is amazing.
I like that, man. You know, I was talking to you before we started recording, is that, you know, I've been investigating, you know, a solution to a lot of this stuff, you know, and understanding how deep trauma can sit. You know, I just doing, and I've all practiced this stuff on myself. You know what I mean? And so what I'm finding is the biological system is, if it's rid with toxins and poison, you know, from alcohol, from pharmaceuticals, to processed foods, to heavy metals from our job that we're exposed to and we're absorbing through our skin, and so on and so forth. You know, our body will carry that memory from emotional trauma and stuck cellular memory that we cannot release unless we are cleaning our vessel, because it's just the way it operates.
Your body keeps the score.
Correct. So, and this is in reference to that book, because I had a hard time with that book being thrown out and no one knew what to do about it. Aside from people talking about EMDR and people discussing, you know, I would say some psychosomatic stuff, but there's no specific stuff that was being listed on how to approach it. And so what I'm seeing is there has to be a cleansing of the system. And the second thing is really getting the body out of stress, because the body cannot also release or expose itself to vulnerability if the body's in a stressful state. Our cortisol levels are through the roof. And so that dumps all of our hormones out of whack. How can you feel open and vulnerable when you're got cortisol pumping through your veins? It's impossible. So the second thing is getting the body out of stress some way, somehow. That's why that personal practice comes into fruition. And thirdly is really understanding what spirituality is, because spirituality is as a part of who we are, whether we like it or not. And spirituality is just a lack of disconnection. Reconnecting oneself is spiritual. That's a spiritual sense. When you are doing a heavy workout or you're presented with a task that requires the spirit within you to accomplish it, that requires some type of connection. And that is what spirituality is. There's no sacrilegious aspect to it. And when you learn when you've reconnected that, so that's a superhuman part of you. And that's what we want to get to, is that superhuman nature where you are completely resilient to any type of situation that can come up. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm finding right now. And I'm putting together something that allows us to reach those 3 points. And then lastly is that part of community that we had talked about. Like that is so important. We are tribal beings. It's a primal sense of who we are through how our ancestors had come together. And in general, like the two genders, male and female, used to unify in a circle around a fire, and they would bring their frequency of their gender together. So the men going on a hunt together, talking around a fire, and doing these things together, that was a part of us, man. And we've lost sight on how to really connect in that way. So these sacred men's circles that are starting to kind of pop up here and there, to where it opens up a space of vulnerability. Those things are really essential to how we find that community together, and true friendship.
Yeah.
Other than that though, dude, I'm trying to figure out how to do it though, and I'm just, there's so much red tape to it. It has to be an underground thing until someone feels the change and the healing and starts telling another person and another person.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the only way because of the red tape. Mm-hmm. I hate running through red tape of, oh, I'm sorry, John, my department, I don't know, man. I have to run it through the channels and see if this chief will sign it off. And that's the stuff I'm seeing with anything that I'm doing. Yeah. It's not getting through. And a lot of it comes down to these higher ups who have these badges on their collars that are saying, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. Or, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm just not going to let it follow through. Mm-hmm. That's the really what's the blockades that are causing the paradigm to not move in the way we need it to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you heard of neurofeedback?
Yeah, I did it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. I did it as well too, with through Bud's Odyssey.
Yeah.
I liked that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really good, and how you're able to switch from alpha to beta.
Yeah.
Switch from your fight or flight to your relaxed state, and I think a lot of us are stuck in that. We're always on guard. We're ready for something to happen.
Yeah.
All day we're ready for the worst moment of someone's life. And
that's a skill,
and that
dude.
doesn't turn off.
Yeah.
We can't turn it off. So luckily there's that program that hopefully helps your brain switch to be able to turn that off. So I liked it. I tell a lot of people about it. What was your experience with it?
It's another trance.
Okay.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
To shift from alpha to theta, or beta or anything like that. But I was really advanced in my meditation practice at that time. So I was like, oh, this is meditation. So it's pretty interesting when you look at brainwave states. And, alpha is it's the one you're just logic, linear. You're just thinking about analytical thinking. I got this, I got that, I got this. And I'm doing that on the job all the time. I was doing that yesterday. I was getting trained and doing some training and getting certified on the different things on the truck. It's I was doing that nonstop, and my nervous system was a wreck after, and that's because I've already gained a relationship with myself. And I was like, that's okay. That's part of it. I have to be in that state. And when you change from that state, you want to get to theta, because that's when the reprogramming of things can happen within that brainwave state. There's another brainwave state that I found really fascinating, and that one is called gamma. And that brainwave state was That one had come from doing tests on EEGs on Buddhist monks. And what they had found was that this gamma state was so fast and rapid, but it wasn't like alpha. It was a trance to where their whole body was relaxed, their heart rate dropped, and their breath cycles dropped, and they were actually out of their bodies when they asked them why, what were you doing and experiencing at that time? What was that? And so they had appeared to have this gamma state. And what they found with this gamma state is when they actually were connecting from the heart to the mind. And that heart to mind frequency and connection is actually what is transformative to hit that extra level of frequency, which I found to be really interesting. And there's something really fascinating about heart-mind connection, is because essentially our hearts are really the driving force. We're designed to drive from our hearts. We're supposed to lead our life from our hearts, but we're not understanding how to get there. We really were never taught how to get there, you know? So I think that's a really powerful motive to understand where gamma is coming from. So I've been really fascinated by these brainwave states for a while now, you know?
Well, love, right?
For sure.
That's what everything's about.
Yeah. In the end.
In the end.
Yeah. Because I know you've done all this work on yourself, right? And what is the answer to all of it? It ended up being love, usually, or a form of love, right?
Right. I mean, love everyone like you want to be loved.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems such simple.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
You know, I think it's hard because we have failed to love ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was
We're
one
so
of the real
hard on
hardest
ourselves.
answers. Right.
So hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we are where we are, is because we've pushed ourselves so hard and we've been hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we're our biggest critics, so it's hard to love yourself.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that myself, man. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I think the biggest thing is to accept it.
Yeah.
You know, and when I accept something, it really changes. It puts a stop to the over analytical thinking with it. You know, and it's okay if I can't change it right now. Mm-hmm. You know, but if I can move forward with that acceptance, I can really see some transformation happen. You know, if it's not on a major scale, it's not a subtle scale, at least. You know, I think that's really powerful to me. You know, I think hope others can see, like, you know, it's not cliche to understand like that the essence of life is love and unconditional love. You know, we really have to put a statement on that, unconditional. Yeah. You know, that's this essence of the Christ consciousness per se. You know, I think we fail to really see that. You know.
Yep. And what's attached to that is living a life of service. Is I think that if you're service to others, that is, I don't know, it's one of the love languages, right?
Yeah.
Is
yeah, for sure.
That's how I want to be of service to you, and that's how I'm showing you that I love you.
I love that. I like that, dude.
Yep.
You know, something that really hit me in your story was your attachment to the thought, and you recognize that. Now, it's really powerful, man, is when we see our attachments to things. Now, I was really, I was impressed the way you recognize that, because that's huge to recognize our attachments to things. And what do you think about that, like attachments?
Well, it's very hard to recognize your thoughts, and then to process it, and really to know that it is just a thought. It's you don't have to act on your thoughts. I think that's the hard part, is normally just reacting to things and continuing. Oh, this is what I'm thinking right now. I got to continue with it.
Yeah.
No, you just let it keep going.
Yeah, I think that's what like a mental practice is essential. You know, I do like this theory that you got going on with like rotating like a station of like, hey, do this with a therapist, get some tools to use, go do a cold plunge, go do a sauna, go do some like whatever it is.
Yeah.
I like that. It's cool. Dude.
Neurofeedback, hopefully.
Yeah.
We can get neurofeedback in there. We could do meditation, have a meditation room. Like
Yeah.
I really want to push for this
It's cool.
center. And I think it'll catch on. I really do. San Diego is kind of starting to do something like that.
I like that. Yeah, they're already like on point with changing things with like the peer support and all that stuff, you know?
Yes. Do you guys have one?
We do. It's just like BFE.
Okay.
It's in
an
the
old fire
valley.
station,
Yeah,
right?
it's in the valley, and it's like the traffic in that area is terrible, and I just have no desire to go there because of that.
Yeah. What are they doing there?
I haven't been there yet.
Okay.
Hugo's been wanting me to get there. I know they have a lot of great stuff,
Okay.
but our department's so big, dude.
Yes.
It's so big. We need one in each battalion, or at least each bureau. You know, we got a lot of guys that live out of state too. It's tough, man. I think there needs to be, something like that, but within battalion. But it just takes money.
Yeah. Yep.
Takes money, man. And what happened, I think, was we had a few guys who were suffering really hard for like a few months. You know, altogether, it was a big stamp. Like, hey, this is a problem. Now, once that's dissipated, you know, there's other distractions. Everyone's kind of forgot, you know, about what's important. You know, about this suffering thing. You know, everyone's dealing with, and I have not forgotten. You know.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I continue this work. But I think it's gonna, there's a lot of politics and stuff going on, as you know,
Yep.
our department. So it's tough, dude. You know, it's a really strange. It's a large department. You know, how do we deal with this stuff like this in a larger scale? But I do like this stuff you got going on in your theories and stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep fighting as much as I can fight, and I just want to make a difference. I want to push forward all the things I've been learning from the 10 years that I've been into this, and everything that I've learned in my life. And on top of that, I got obsessed about learning new ways to heal, and just I got obsessed. And then that's the best. Not obsessed. I got addicted. Right? I mean, I have an addictive personality. Most people do.
For sure.
And I got addicted to self-help, which isn't that bad. But I want to be able to share some of these things with other people. And I feel like I've been collecting people over the past few years.
Right.
And I feel like I have a pretty good group of people like yourself that are in the same mindset, and we're going to make a difference.
I like it, man. I like to end on that.
All right.
Cool, brother.
Yeah.
Dude, Jason, I know we've been trying to get this done for a long time, man, but I really thank you and honor you and everything you do. Much love and respect to you, brother. I really, really, I'm happy you're able to tell your story and stuff, and just the work you've done, the service you provide. Yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you for being persistent on getting me here. I know I have a busy schedule, but thanks for getting me in here.
I'm very persistent. It's because I think I know people's hearts when I meet them, you know, and I know you have a good heart, dude. The moment I met you, so I was like, I gotta get Jason on, dude. You know, and also to just to kind of support the LB, you know, and everything going on in your department. And I hope all your colleagues listen and just keep the movement going. I'll put all your stuff, your accolades and stuff underneath Halos for Heroes. Anything else that you have for contact?
I think my best would be the Halos for Heroes email address if people want to contact me. We have that class coming up this month. There'll be 3 more this year.
14th.
Yeah, the 14th.
March 14th.
In Signal Hill at our Union Hall. I don't know. I feel like I've done a lot, but I haven't done enough. I was on the Treat California committee,
Right,
trying to
right.
get psychedelics passed for research. I've made national suicide videos for every firefighter in the nation.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's not enough.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone else to suffer.
What happened to the Tree California deal?
The polls came back that people didn't trust a government organization to run psychedelics.
I get
So nobody wanted to support it. So we were trying to get 1 million signatures to get it
Yeah.
on the ballot, and the polls weren't coming back right. So with that, it was great. I met a lot of great people. I kind of got into the psychedelic world. I learned a lot about psychedelics. I hope it comes back. It looks like very promising. We've spoken a bunch about it, and the biggest thing, and there has to be other ways to treat depression and all this other stuff that's going on in our lives
Yeah.
from non-traditional ways, because the traditional ways aren't working.
Yeah.
So there has to be other ways that we're not looking at right now to be able to help people.
Yeah, I think there's things that these medicines offer that can heal things in the spirit realm, that can heal things that are deeply rooted underneath the surface. They can be great tools, and we have to come to an agreement that they are not the magic bullet, and that it can be actually lead you deeper into your suffering, because you have the things you have to witness and see within yourself. I think that's one of the biggest anomalies people need to understand with that. It's like it can be harder on you when you go into something like this, because it's just going to show you the truth, and we hate to see it, and we've been stuffing it deep within our subconscious.
Yep. Your ego.
Yeah.
Shows you your ego.
I've sat with the egoic state for a long time, and I came to a conclusion that the ego is still an expression of the soul, and we have to honor that. My ego did a lot for me when I needed it, but it can't be in the driver's seat. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
So it has to be some type of musical chairs going on within yourself to kind of put, the true essence of who you are, the true self, in the front seat as driving. Let the ego still assist you. It can't run rampant. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh man. So thank you,
You're
Jason.
welcome.
Appreciate you, brother. Everyone, thank you for listening. I love you guys. Yeah, take care.
It's time for Crab Lives.